This reality, this infinity, is teeming with different expressions of life, and some of it's interacting with us. This reality that we're experiencing has been hijacked by a force that some the word Archon, they said, that in term the Archons and the Lord Archon, in which they called the Demiurge, was a fake god that created our physical or material reality as we perceive it, the Gnostics. Lated Demios, they created the inorganic parts of the solar system, but that the sun, the moon, and the earth were a system that were of itself, and different from the rest, which was kind of interesting with what will come later. They said that the Demiurge Archons had no creative imagination and envied humans, because we have their like cyborgs again. We're coming back to the inorganic like cyborgs, a robotic race that can imitate but not innovate, and the word they used was counted mimicry. Now what? They were saying in effect is if you gave these Archons a blank sheet of paper, they could create nothing on it. They don't have that creative imagination, that what was called intentionality. But you give them something with a piece of paper with something on it, and they can twist it and manipulate it once it exists. And they used the term fantasia, because these entities, they said, just as the Islamic people say about the jinn, have the ability to create virtual reality illusions. Their mind, parasites, they possess humanity and manipulate the way they perceive everything, and they say the word you could use more than any about the Archons was deception. They are deceivers, and what they create is an inversion of the natural order. Classic Satan is called the deceiver and the demon of demons as this. Demiurge is called the Archon of Archons, the Lord Archons. Now, as we're looking at, is what I would call a self-aware distortion, and its self-aware inversion. Everything is conscious, even if a distortion is conscious, even an inversion is conscious. But it's conscious in a way that reflects the inversion and the distill. And if you look at what we call evil, it is live written backwards. Evil is simply an inversion of life, an inversion of perception, and evil is extreme ignorance, which is the inversion of truth and awareness. And because this force is our contact force, shall I call it, is an inversion of life. That's why it, and anything attached to it, is obsessed with death, which is an inversion of life. Their rituals obsessed with death. That's why they're attracted to churchyards, cemeteries, and so the death cult, which is what this our contact force and its followers are. He's about destroying, it's about killing, and whereas the natural order is about life and abundance, and so when you look at the way the system, the our context system, that I'll come to, is destroying life, war, but it's destroying life, the natural world. But it seems a contradiction, but it's not, because that's their world. The Archon world, described by the Gnostics, is one of death. Sown of no creative imagination, it's a death cult, and all this pollution and environmental devastation is absolutely what it wants, because that's its reality. And the other thing about the Archon tech mind is it's what we call psychopathic. They're psychopaths, the definition of which is this: no empathy, no remorse, no empathy, no ability to put themselves in the feelings of those that suffer the consequences of their actions. Once you have no empathy, you have no limit to what you will do, because you have no emotional consequence for doing it, no remorse for what you do, no shame. Parasites overwhelmingly. Why? Because they have no creativity of their own. So they have to parasite off the creativity of the target population. That's what the system does. Look at banking. What else is that but an exercise in parasites? And these people which manifest as many world leaders and all the rest of it, I'll come to our pathological liars. Which is what is a pathological liar? An inversion of truth, inversion. And they'll do whatever it takes to get their end. That these Archons could create what we would call virtual realities through controlling perception. They said me about the Archons, they make something appear to happen that does not happen. They can induce a virtual reality experience. They can manipulate humans by creating illusions by perception. So this whole our context system is about programming our perception, programming a distortion of our perception, an inversion of our perception, which is why we live in a madhouse, because it's an inversion of the natural order. So the idea is to disconnect the human mind, the human droplet from the ocean, and lock us into this tiny set of frequencies. which then we perceive as all that there is to see, and gotcha now before this what I call hack. And you see why I hack shortly. There was another world described by the ancients, and very much along the lines of the Avatar movie, and the Na'vi, the blue people, and how they interacted with the natural world, how they communicated with animals, how they communicated with each other beyond speech. And what the Gnostic texts say is that the Archons made any bad copy, as they described it, of our original reality. The original reality was that kind of avatar world. But we're not dealing with the physical, we're dealing with information. That world is an information construct, which we decode into a lovely world. This is an information construct, which we decode into the world that we have today. And the idea, this might not be the battery light, but the idea was to create this illusory reality and replace the old reality, I think, because it's anyway, and then shooting humans into that bad copy. Now, when you think about it, we tune into an information field of certain frequencies. We are decode that into a reality. If we are then moved, our dial is move, so we're decoding something else. We just decode another completely different reality, and that's what is meant by this bad copy. So this is an image that sums it up, that you can perceive, so you can decode a reality of the avatar kind. And then you are fed a different information source, tune into it 3 ways that I'll come to, and then you decode a different reality, what I call the Archon tech reality. And this, I would strongly suggest, is the fake reality that we have the decoding through what we call known human history, on human history and further, but we think is just the natural world. If you can create a virtual reality simulation, then you can create an alternative to it as well, which is what the bad copy. You can start to entrain the human decoding system into that frequency, and suddenly you're decoding a completely different reality. And once that happens, they gotcha. This harmonizer blocks those unseen forces, bringing balance to your environment. Starting at $399, choose your size, 6.5, 10, or 15 inches. Contact us at 500-4519-0723 or email craftvideo1@gmail.com.